In the shadows of the Vatican, a storm is rising. The faithful whisper it, the cardinals feel it, and the world cannot look away. Padre Pio, the holy mystic who carried the wounds of Christ, once spoke of signs so great, so final, that the Church itself would tremble. And now, decades later, the name that keeps appearing is Luis Antonio Tagle. What we know is clear. Cardinal Tagle holds one of the highest positions in the Church, pro-prefect of evangelization, a voice sent to the ends of the earth. In May 2025, as the bells of St. Peter's tolled after the death of Pope Francis, the conclave gave us Pope Leo XIV, and on the day of his inauguration, it was Tagle who placed the sacred ring of the fisherman on the new pope's hand. A gesture many saw as symbolic, but others whispered was prophetic because Padre Pio's warnings were not vague. They were piercing. He spoke of 3 final signs that would reveal themselves in the heart of the Church at the time of greatest crisis. No record shows his lips naming Tagle, yet those who know, those who watch the signs, say Padre Pio saw this coming. Wars, division, false shepherds rising. And at the center of it, a man beloved by millions, a cardinal some already called the voice of the poor. But could he become something more? Rome is restless, and cardinals gather behind closed doors. Prophecies circulate, secret letters are passed, and the faithful look to heaven asking, is Luis Tagle destined to be the shepherd who will guide the Church through the 3 final signs? Or the lightning rod that draws them down? Every headline, every rumor, every symbolic gesture feels like a piece of a puzzle Padre Pio left behind. The Vatican says nothing, but the silence is louder than words. And as Pope Leo XIV calls for renewal, for evangelization, for justice, others say the very purification of the bride of Christ has begun. This is not coincidence. This is a collision of prophecy and reality. The question is not if, but when. And when it comes, the whole world will know that Padre Pio saw this coming. The Vatican skyline glows in the night. But beneath the golden dome of St. Peter's, something stirs. Something the world was never meant to see so soon. The death of Pope Francis was not the end of an era. It was the beginning of a reckoning. The conclave moved swiftly, smoke rose, and the name was declared. Pope Leo XIV. The world cheered, the bells rang, and yet Padre Pio's words echo from beyond the grave. When the Church seems strong, the signs will come, and they will not be ignored. And then, the first sign. At the inauguration mass, while cameras flashed and choirs sang, it was Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, humble, soft-spoken, beloved across Asia and beyond, who placed the fisherman's ring on the hand of the new pope. To many, a ritual. To others, a prophecy fulfilled in silence. For Padre Pio foresaw a day when a man from afar, clothed in humility, would stand at the threshold of history. His role hidden, his destiny burning. But Rome is not at peace. Whispers ripple through marble corridors. Secret factions within the Vatican clash, like unseen armies. Some say Tagle's rise is divine. Others fear it is dangerous. The bride of Christ is being purified, but the fire is fierce and the smoke is suffocating. The papacy itself stands at the crossroads, and every decision of Pope Leo XIV feels like a blade cutting into the soul of the Church. The second sign looms. Wars erupt, the faithful scatter, and even among the bishops there is division. Who speaks with the voice of Christ? Who speaks with the serpent's tongue? And in this confusion, Tagle emerges again, the voice of the poor, the gentle shepherd, but also the man some accuse of being a harbinger. His words of peace fall like oil on the storm. But prophecy warns, when peace is promised, beware, for the trial is near, the third sign. It has not yet come. But the faithful tremble, because Padre Pio's vision spoke of a shattering revelation. A blow so great that the Church herself would stagger like a wounded giant. And the name connected to it, again and again, is Luis Tagle. Not because he is evil, but because he is chosen, either to carry the cross into the darkest night, or to be the lightning rod that calls down the storm, the papacy, the cardinals, the factions in Rome. All are pieces of a greater battle. Not flesh and blood, but powers and principalities. The bride of Christ is being purified. The chains are breaking. The veil is tearing. The question is, will the faithful endure? Will the Church rise from the ashes as gold refined by fire? Or will the divisions tear her apart before the dawn? And through it all, Padre Pio's shadow stretches across time, whispering, "I saw this coming. I saw the signs. And I saw the man who would stand when the world trembles. This storm has only begun. What I am about to say will not leave you the same. The walls of the Vatican have seen centuries of triumph and betrayal. Coronations and conspiracies, saints and sinners walking side by side. But what is happening now, in this very hour, carries a weight not felt since the days of Peter himself. The conclave may have ended. The Pope may wear the fisherman's ring, but the struggle for the soul of the Church has only just begun. Pope Leo XIV sits upon the chair of Peter, yet every night his sleep is pierced by visions. Visions of Christ weeping over his bride. Visions of angels locked in battle above Rome. Visions of a church torn open by the sins of her own children. And when he opens his eyes, who stands beside him? Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, a man who carries both hope and warning, because you must understand, the factions within the Vatican are no longer hidden. One side whispers of renewal, evangelization, a humble return to Christ. The other side clings to power, corruption, and secrecy, a web of shadows stretching through marble halls. And in the middle is Tagle, beloved by millions, distrusted by few, but watched by all. Some see him as the bridge to a new era. Others fear he is the spark that will ignite the fire, and Padre Pio. Decades ago, this holy man saw the wounds of Christ carved into his own flesh. He saw visions that terrified even the strongest souls. And he warned of a time when the Church would pass through 3 final signs before the great purification. The first 2 are already unfolding. The shaking of the papacy, the division of the shepherds, the growing cries of war and apostasy. But the third sign hangs over the Church like a sword. Is it betrayal from within? Is it a revelation that will strip away every mask? Is it the moment when Christ himself demands his bride be cleansed in fire and blood? The answer has not yet been revealed. But all eyes are on Rome. All eyes are on Pope Leo XIV. And yes, all eyes are on Cardinal Tagle. The faithful can feel it, the weight in their prayers, the heaviness in their hearts, the sense that heaven is preparing something. Signs in the sky, unrest on the earth, and silence from the Vatican. Silence that speaks louder than words. The bride of Christ is entering her darkest night, and yet, within the darkness, a glimmer, because every prophecy of trial is also a prophecy of glory. Every purification is followed by renewal. Padre Pio did not see only terror. He saw triumph. He saw Christ victorious, his bride shining, the gates of hell broken forever. But first, the storm must come. First, the final sign must appear. And when it does, the world will remember these words. Padre Pio saw this coming. The bells of Rome toll in the night, echoing not just through stone and street, but through the very soul of the Catholic Church. Each sound feels heavier than the last, as though heaven itself is striking the hour of destiny. The Vatican glimmers beneath the moonlight, serene to the eye of the world. Yet inside its walls, shadows move, secrets whisper, and prophecies press against the silence like thunder waiting to break. For centuries, the papacy has stood as the rock of Peter, an unbroken chain against which the gates of hell could not prevail. But now the bride of Christ trembles, because the storm is no longer distant. It is here, alive, raging, and breaking against her very heart. Pope Leo XIV wears the white cassock, chosen by the cardinals in a conclave that shook the earth. His election was hailed as a new dawn, a moment of grace, a sign of renewal after the death of Pope Francis. And yet, beneath the celebration, a darker story unfolds. Because when the world looked upon the inauguration, they saw rituals of glory. But prophecy saw signs of warning. The cameras showed choirs singing, pilgrims crying, and a pope kneeling before the altar. But those who watch with spiritual eyes saw something far greater. The moment when Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, quiet, faithful, beloved, placed the sacred fisherman's ring upon the hand of Pope Leo XIV. To the casual observer, it was a ritual. To the faithful who remember Padre Pio's warnings, it was a signal. The first sign, Padre Pio, the holy stigmatist, the man who bore the wounds of Christ, spoke of days when the Church would not be destroyed, but purified. He warned of 3 final signs that would shake the foundations of Rome and test the faith of every believer. No document records him naming Tagle, but the hand of heaven works in silence, and the pattern is undeniable. The prophecy has awakened. Inside the Vatican, the battle lines are drawn, not with swords and shields, but with power and silence. Secret factions rise like ancient phantoms, some cloaked in tradition, others wrapped in reform, all claiming the mantle of Christ, but not all walking in his spirit. The papacy itself has become the battlefield. Pope Leo XIV stands in the center, a shepherd burdened by the weight of the world, torn between voices, pressured by powers, haunted by visions of division. And there, in the middle of it all, Cardinal Tagle. To the poor he is their voice. To the faithful in Asia, he is their light. To many in Rome, he is papabile, perhaps even the next in line to wear the white cassock. But to others, to those who whisper in marble corridors and plot in the shadows, he is the threat that must be silenced. Because if Tagle's rise is truly written in the divine story, then every corrupt throne, every false shepherd, every secret faction will be cast down. And they know it. The second sign. It is already unfolding. Sodom, wars rage beyond Rome's walls, but worse still, a war rages within. Bishops contradict bishops, priests rise against priests, confusion spreads among the flock. False prophets twist the gospel. Secular powers mock the faith, and even within the College of Cardinals, suspicion festers like a wound. Padre Pio saw it. Division among the shepherds, scattering of the sheep. And now we see it too. The bride of Christ is being purified in fire. And fire does not caress, it burns. The scandals, the betrayals, the loss of trust, these are not random wounds. They are the cleansing flame, consuming the dross, leaving only the gold. The Church of Christ will not be destroyed, but she will be stripped, purified, humbled, and made radiant. Yet the process tears at the heart of every believer, and the cry rises, Lord, how long? The third sign, it has not yet come. But already the air trembles with its approach. Padre Pio spoke of a revelation so great, so shattering, that it would pierce even the strongest faith. Some say it will be betrayal. Others say it will be a heavenly sign, undeniable and terrifying. Some whisper of a voice from the heavens, calling the faithful to prepare for the 3 days of darkness. Others warn of a great schism, a tearing apart of the papacy itself. And at the center of these whispers, the name of Luis Antonio Tagle. Not because he seeks power, but because destiny has placed him where prophecy burns brightest. Will he be the shepherd who leads the Church into her final trial? Or the lightning rod that draws down the storm? Rome waits. Heaven waits. The faithful tremble. Meanwhile, Pope Leo XIV prays in silence. He has seen the letters, the secret warnings, the whispers of prophecies buried in archives. He has heard the factions argue. He has seen betrayal in the eyes of those who bow before him. And at night he dreams of Christ. Christ crowned with thorns, Christ weeping. Christ holding out his wounded hands, saying, My bride must be purified. And every morning, when the Pope opens his eyes, the question returns, who will stand with him? Who will betray him? Who will carry the cross? And every time he sees Tagle at his side, silent, steady, yet marked by destiny, the faithful must understand. This is not politics. This is not ceremony. This is the clash of heaven and hell, the great spiritual battle prophesied for centuries. The Vatican is the stage, but the actors are angels and demons, saints and traitors, Christ and Antichrist. The bride of Christ is not collapsing. She is being purified for her final glory, but purification is agony, and the time of comfort has passed. Padre Pio's voice cries across time, Do not be afraid of the storm! Fear only sin, for after the storm, the Church will shine with a light the world has never seen. And so the world waits. The cardinals whisper. The Pope prays. And Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle stands in the eye of the storm, his role hidden but inescapable. Padre Pio saw it coming. The first sign has already appeared. The second rages before our eyes. And the third is near. Heaven is moving. Rome is shaking. The bride of Christ is bleeding. The final signs are upon us, and when the third descends, no one will be able to deny that prophecy has become reality. This is not the end. This is the purification. This is the moment when faith will either burn away or burn brighter than fire. Then, the silence inside the Vatican broke. Documents hidden for decades surfaced in a way no one expected. A forgotten letter, locked away in the apostolic archives, written in trembling hand by a mystic close to Padre Pio. It spoke of a pope who would wear the name of the lion, and a cardinal from the East who would stand beside him at the hour of trial. The words matched our time with terrifying precision. Pope Leo XIV and Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. And when the letter was read in secret, some cardinals fell into prayer, others into rage, because it meant the prophecy was not just legend. It was alive. Behind closed doors, factions plotted. Some said Tagle must be elevated higher. Others swore he must be silenced. Secret alliances formed, and even within the papal household, betrayal whispered like poison in the dark. The bride of Christ was under attack, not from the outside, but from her own household. And yet, through every meeting, every storm, every accusation, Tagle remained silent, carrying his cross like a lamb led to the slaughter, but heaven had not forgotten. The second sign had shaken the church. Division among shepherds, confusion among the faithful, the world mocking her weakness. The third sign drew near, and when it came, it was unlike anything the world had ever seen. It happened on a night of prayer. Pope Leo XIV, weary but resolute, entered St. Peter's Basilica alone. The silence of the great dome pressed upon him, when suddenly the lights flickered and the air itself grew heavy. Witnesses later swore they heard thunder inside the basilica, though the skies of Rome were clear. And then, before the altar of St. Peter, the Pope collapsed to his knees, crying out, "Purify your bride, O Lord, and let your will be done." In that very moment, across the world, miraculous signs began. In Manila, a statue of Christ wept blood. In Fatima, pilgrims claimed to see the sun dance once more. In Italy, Padre Pio's resting place filled with the scent of roses and incense, though no flower touched the shrine. The faithful fell to their knees, crying, "The signs are here! The time is now!" And in Rome, before the astonished eyes of those present, Pope Leo XIV rose from prayer with a face transfigured. He looked upon Cardinal Tagle, who had rushed to his side, and declared words that no one expected. Words that tore through centuries of secrecy. "The final sign is not your fall. It is your rise. You are chosen to lead the bride through her darkest night. The purification has begun." The basilica erupted. Some cardinals gasped in awe. Others shouted in fury. The factions collided in chaos. Yet over it all rang the sound of the Pope's voice, strong and unshaken. And in that instant, lightning struck the dome of St. Peter's, shaking the city to its core, a heavenly signature. A divine stamp, a warning and a promise all at once. The bride of Christ was entering her greatest trial, but also her greatest glory. Padre Pio had seen it. The faithful now lived it. Pope Leo XIV had spoken it. And Luis Antonio Tagle, the humble servant, the voice of the poor, the cardinal of destiny, had stepped into the role heaven itself had carved for him. This was the twist no one saw coming. The third sign was not destruction. It was revelation. Not the end of the church, but the dawn of her purification. The Vatican trembles. The cardinals are divided. The bride of Christ walks into the fire, and yet, from the fire, she will rise radiant, spotless, glorious, prepared for her bridegroom at the end of time, and the world will remember forever. Padre Pio saw this coming.